Go ahead. Quiet.
Hi, my name is Neveah. I attend Restoration Church of Rhode Island, and today the title of my sermon is When the Rubber Meets the Road from Hebrews 11:1. For the most part, many of us have heard or can even quote Hebrews 11:1-2. And it says, faith shows the reality of what we hope for. It's the evidence of things we cannot see. Through their faith, people in the days of old earned a good reputation. All throughout the Bible, we read of men and women who displayed great faith in God when they were in the middle of very tough situations. In fact, right here in Hebrews 11, the Bible actually tells us about them. This chapter is known to many as the Hall of Faith. There are a few people that stand out to me in the Bible that they displayed great faith and trust in God. We read about a man named Job in the book of Job who displayed great faith in God as he was being attacked by Satan. The Bible tells us that Job lost everything he owned, and if that wasn't enough, he lost all his children. In the midst of grieving the loss of his kids, Satan now attacks Job's health, and he's stricken with boils and sores all over his body. Job went through so much pain and agony, and these situations could have easily rocked his faith and turned him in trust in God. If you think about it, Job pretty much had a great reason to turn his back on God. But we read in the scriptures that Job did not lose his faith. He hung in there and believed that God was God in the good times and in the bad. We also read about the early church and how they were under great persecution because they decided to live for Jesus. Imagine that. People were being arrested, thrown into jail, boiled in oil, whipped, stoned, attacked by lions, crucified, beheaded, and burned, killed simply because they believed. Boy, we haven't made it. Of the many examples that we read about in the Bible, none hits home for me than the story of the three young Hebrew boys named Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And Daniel 3:1-6 says, King Nebuchadnezzar made a gold statue 90 feet tall and 9 feet wide and set it up on the plain of Dura in the province of Babylon. Then he sent messages to the high officers, officials, governors, advisors, treasurers, judges, magistrates, and all the provincial officials to come to the dedication of the statue he had set up. So all these officials came and stood before the statue King Nebuchadnezzar had set up. Then a herald shouted out, people of all races and nations and language, listen to the king's command. When you hear the sound of the horn, flute, zither, lyre, harp, pipes, and other musical instruments, bow to the ground to worship King Nebuchadnezzar's gold statue. Anyone who refuses to obey will be immediately thrown into a blazing furnace. We go on to read that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego decided that they were not going to bow down and worship the statue that King Nebuchadnezzar had built. And the result of their decision led to them being thrown into the fiery furnace. Their faith was put to the ultimate test. The boys stated in verse 16 to King Nebuchadnezzar, O Nebuchadnezzar, we do not need to defend ourselves before you. If we are thrown into the blazing furnace, the God whom we serve is able to save us. He will rescue us from your power, your majesty. But even if he doesn't, we want to make it clear to you, your majesty, that we will never serve your gods or worship the gold statue that you have set up. The three Hebrew boys had a whatever attitude. Their faith was tested and they passed the test. I can relate to this story so much because there was a time in my life where I feel like my faith was tested. Like when I was doing gymnastics, I was around a lot of girls my age, and it seemed to me that not a lot of them are Christians. I never felt the need for people to know that I was a Christian, so I never really brought it up. And honestly, when the thing did get brought up, I never really was comfortable talking about it because I didn't know how people were going to view me, and I didn't want them to view me differently. But as time went on and I began to get closer and make friends, I started opening up about my beliefs in my Christianity. and I realized that none of them had a different view of me. They all treated me the same way. Satan wants to steal, kill, and destroy our faith and trust in God. And he uses situations to put your faith to the test, and that's what he was doing to me. For whatever reason, he made me feel like I could not talk about who I was in Christ. Although this was an early test of my faith, I know that as life goes on as a Christian, it does not go without your faith being tested from time to time. I want to encourage you today to put your faith and trust in God even when times get hard. The Bible tells us in Romans 12 that God is who gives us faith. So we can trust in the fact that whatever situation we find ourselves in, we can ask God to give us the faith to overcome that situation. May the Lord bless you and keep you.